Hi friends, in this YouTube channel I explained about the OBG portions. In that I explained the fetus in utero, the basic terms. Hi friends, in this video I explained about the fetus in utero basic terms. So for explaining this is considered as a maternal spine, uterus and pelvis model, and this is a fetus model. So in that I explained about the lie, presentation, presenting part, attitude, and finally the denominator and positions. So first I explained about the lie. Lie means, as a definition, lie means it refers to the relationship of the long axis of the fetus to the long axis of the centralized uterus or maternal spine. So the maternal spine and centralized uterus is considered fixed thing. So the maternal spine and centralized uterus in relation to the long axis of the fetus. Long axis of the fetus means that start from the fetal head to the till sacrum. This is the long axis of the fetus. So this long axis of the fetus and the centralized uterus or maternal spine, this relation is called the lie. So that means the fetus normal lie is a longitudinal lie. That means like that. This maternal spine or centralized uterus and fetal spine in a same line. So this is a longitudinal lie. Next is the transverse lie. Transverse lie means maternal spine and centralized fetus uterus in a normal position, but the long axis of the fetus in a transverse position, like that transverse position. So this is the transverse lie. Next is an oblique lie. This oblique lie is very rarely only we can able to see this oblique lie. That means the maternal spine and centralized uterus in a longitudinal position, but the fetal spine is an oblique position. This is an oblique lie. So this is the normal position. On the basis of an lie, the doctors mainly decide the labor will be normal or operative labor. That will be decided mainly on the basis of an lie. So first is longitudinal lie means maternal spine and centralized fetus uterus in a longitudinal position. Also the fetus long axis is in longitudinal position. This is the longitudinal lie. Next is the transverse lie means maternal spine and centralized uterus in a same this position, but the long axis of the fetus will be in a transverse position. So this is the transverse lie. Next is an oblique lie. That means same thing. The maternal spine and uterus will be in a centralized position. Next, the fetus long axis in a oblique position. So this is about the lie. The next I explained about the presentation. Presentation means the part of the fetus which occupy the lower pole of the uterus. That means uterus we can able to divide it in a upper pole and lower pole, or upper segment and lower segment. So in presentation, the fetus which part will be occur on the lower segment of the uterus, that full part is called presentation. That means if fetus head will be come in a lower position means that presentation is called a cephalic presentation. If fetus buttocks will be come on lower segment means that this lower segment which part of the fetus will occupy. On the basis of that we explained about the presentation. So now the buttocks will be come on the lower part of the lower part of the uterus. So this is called the breech presentation. Next, sometime the fetus feet will become on the, like that fetus feet will become on the lower segment. That time it's called as a podalic presentation. In some cases, rarely, the fetus shoulder also will become on the lower segment, like that. Mainly in oblique lie. That cases mainly. That means oblique lie is like that. So in oblique lie, like that, the shoulder will become on the lower part of the uterus. So that time it's called a shoulder presentation. So the presentation means the part of the fetus that which occupy on the lower pole or lower segment of the uterus is called a presentation. So sometimes it is a cephalic presentation, it's a normal presentation. Next is sometimes it will become as an but buttocks, that means breech presentation. Then sometime it will become as an shoulder presentation. So this is about the presentation. Next is the presenting part. When presentation is consists into small, that is called presenting part. That means the presenting part is defined as the part of presentation which overlies the internal os. In presentation means which part of the fetus will be occupy the total lower pole of the uterus. That's called presentation. But in presenting part, particular part will be present overlay the internal os. Through the internal os, when we are doing the vaginal examination, we can able to touch only through the internal os. That internal os, which part feel by that examiner, that particular part is called presenting part. So the presenting part means sometimes the if cephalic means the presenting part mainly will be get as an a vertex presenting part. If that mainly occur in a attitude, that means flexed attitude, we got an a vertex. Sometime the deflexed head, like that means when we are doing like that come in a deflexed head, so that time when we are doing the internal examination, the in internal os we get the part is an a bro. So the presenting part is an a bro. Next is severe deflexed head means when we are doing the examination on internal os, we get the part is an a face. So the presenting part is a face. So in face also have the three presenting part. Presenting part means particularly in internal os, which part is overlays on the internal os. That particular part is called presenting part. In cephalic presentation means in lower segment which part of the fetus will come. So now the head will become, so it's called as an cephalic presentation. Then on the basis of an attitude, sometime through the internal examination we get the in internal os we get the sometime vertex, sometime bro, sometime face. So this about the presenting part. Next about the denominator. Denominator means particularly it is an arbitrary bony fixed point on the presenting part. So that means when we are getting the presenting part, that time some bony point will be feel for us. So that particular arbitrary bony fixed point is called denominator. That means if we get the presenting part vertex means in that side, so vertex means this side, so in vertex means that time we get the bony point mainly is an occiput. Next, if the face got means that time we get the bony point is mentum. That means chin side bone is called mentum. If on the brow means the frontal eminence, in frontal bone to have two eminence. So when the brow presentation means that get the bony fixed point is an a frontal eminence. So denominator, if the breech presentation, if presentation is breech means breech means that time we get the bony fixed point is an a sacrum. If the baby's presentation is shoulder means that time we get a denominator is an acromion. Here have one acromion process, that side on bone is an acromion. So that particular bone is called acromion. So that's the denominator for the shoulder presentation. So denominator means it is an arbitrary bony fixed point on the presenting part. So this about first presentation. Presentation means which of the fetus parts come on the lower segment or lower pole of the uterus totally. That is the presentation. Next consists is a presenting part. Particularly the presenting part means the part of the presentation which overlay only on the internal os. When we are doing the vaginal examination, that time which part will be feel for us. That particular part is called presenting part. Next is denominator, again consists, so that means it's a bony fixed point on the presenting part, particularly on bony point will be filled for us. That particular bony point is called denominator. Next, about the attitude. Attitude means the relationship of the different part of the fetus to one another is called attitude. That means this is a baby. So this is the upper limb and this is the lower limb. Mainly the baby attitude is in a flexed position. That means the relationship of the different part of the fetus. That means like that. Universal attitude is means that is flexion. Like that baby full joint will be flexed together. So this position is called flexion. So this is the this like that slight flexion will be occur in head also. So mainly when we are doing the internal examination, that time if like that means we get the presentation is an cephalic presentation. That means in a cephalic presenting part is an a vertex, denominator is an occiput. Like that is an a normal attitude of the baby is an a flexed position. Next is an a position. Position means relationship of the denominator to the different quadrant of the pelvis. So this is the considered as a model of a pelvis. In pelvis is we divide it as an anterior part. This is an posterior part. This is an transverse part. This two part is a transverse part. This mainly left side. So this is a left transverse and this is a light transverse part. So first thing is if the as a position means it is a relationship of the denominator. Denominator means I already explained the arbitrary bony fixed point on the presenting part. Mainly we got the present denominator is an occiput. So now I explained the positions on the basis of an occiput and a pelvic different quadrants. So if occiputs come anterior to the pelvis means that position is called occipito-anterior position. That I wrote here like that in OA, occipito-anterior. So occiput come and touch with the anterior portion of the pelvis. So occipito-anterior. Next, occiput sometimes is come and touch with the posterior portion of the pelvis means, so that time like that occiput come and touch with the posterior portion. So occipito posterior like that came. So next is an next come as an transverse position. So like that the occiput come and contact with left transverse position. So left occipito transverse. This is a left side, so left occipito transverse. Sometimes come like that. So it's called as an occiput come and touch with the left side anterior position. So left occipito anterior. If baby's occiput come and touch with this side means, so now called as an occiput come and touch with the right anterior position. So right occipito anterior. So this is an right occipito transverse. If sacrum, if sometime the baby's presentation is an breech means, that time when we are doing the internal examination, that time the denominator is an sacrum. So if sacrum is come and touch with the anterior position of the pelvis means, that time we called anterior sacra. That time is called sacro anterior position. So next, sometimes sacrum will be come and touch with the posterior part of the pelvis means is called as an sacro posterior. So if this side means is called as an left sacro transverse. If sacrum come in contact with the left anterior position means, so is called as a left sacro anterior. If here means right sacro anterior. If occiput come means, that time is called as an occipito anterior, occipito posterior. If sacrum means sacro anterior, sacro posterior. So which denominator will be come and contact with the pelvis? Which quadrant will be come and contact? On the basis of that we explained about the position. So this all about the lie. First I tell about the lie. Lie means I explained it refers to the relationship of the long axis of the fetus to the long axis of the fetus to the long axis of the centralized uterus or maternal spine. That's about the lie. Next presentation, the part of the fetus which occupy on the lower pole of the uterus. That's about the presentation. Next presenting part, that means the part of the presentation which overlies the internal os. Then next is denominator. It is an arbitrary bony fixed point on the presenting part which comes in relations with the various quadrant of the maternal pelvis. Next, the position. Positions, the pelvis is divided as an anterior, posterior, transverse, which that position means the denominator to the different, the relationship of the denominator to the different quadrant of the pelvis. If occipitus come means that thing called occipito anterior, occipito posterior, like that come. Then if sacrum means sacro anterior, sacro posterior, right sacro transverse, and left sacro transverse, like that. So this all about the basic terms in a fetus in uterus. So if you are like this video means please share, like and subscribe. Thank you.